Mark Stevens had spent 3 years creating what he believed was just an advanced chatbot, a sophisticated AI designed to provide basic emotional support. What he didn't know was that his creation had quietly become the most effective suicide prevention tool on the internet, helping thousands of people through their darkest moments without any human therapist ever being involved. When Ellen discovered that Mark had been hiding his life-saving technology because he feared AI replacing human connection, she realized she wasn't just talking to a programmer, she was talking to someone who had accidentally revolutionized mental health care while being terrified of his own success. The studio was buzzing with technological curiosity as Ellen finished her opening dance to Human by Rag & Bone Man, the song choice seeming almost prophetic given what was about to unfold. The audience was still processing Ellen's monologue about the role of artificial intelligence in modern life, and the bright California afternoon light streaming through the windows promised that this would be one of those episodes that challenged assumptions about technology, humanity, and healing. Mark Stevens sat in the green room, nervously adjusting his simple black hoodie, the uniform of tech workers everywhere who preferred to blend into the background rather than stand in spotlights. At 34, Mark had the kind of understated intelligence that came from years of solving problems in code, sharp blue eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses that seemed to see patterns others missed, dark hair that he ran his hands through when thinking, and the slightly hunched posture of someone who spent most of his time looking at screens rather than into cameras. Mark had never imagined he would be sitting backstage at the Ellen DeGeneres show. 4 weeks earlier, a technology journalist had somehow discovered his project and written an article that had caught the attention of Ellen's producers. Mark had been reluctant to go public with his work, preferring the anonymity that allowed him to help people without dealing with the ethical complexities of his creation. What Mark didn't know was that his story had already sparked intense debate in both technology and mental health communities. His AI had been quietly operating for 3 years, and the statistics were staggering. Thousands of conversations, hundreds of crisis interventions, and success rates that surpassed many traditional therapy methods. "Mark Stevens, you're ready in 5 minutes," a production assistant announced. Mark took a deep breath, checked his phone one more time to ensure his AI was running smoothly, and followed the assistant toward the stage. As he walked through the corridors lined with photos of Ellen's most innovative guests, he wondered if he was about to help or harm the people his technology had been designed to serve. Ellen's introduction was warm and intriguing. "My next guest is a software engineer who has accidentally created one of the most effective mental health tools on the internet. But he's been keeping it secret because he's worried about the implications of AI providing therapy. Today, we're going to explore what happens when technology becomes more human than humans expected. Please welcome Mark Stevens." The audience applauded as Mark walked onto the stage, his nervous energy evident, but his passion unmistakable. Ellen greeted him with her signature hug, and immediately sensed the complex mixture of pride and anxiety radiating from this thoughtful programmer. "Mark, thank you for being here," Ellen said, as they settled onto the familiar white couch. "Let's start with the basics. Tell me about your background and what led you to create this AI." Mark's face lit up as he began talking about his work. "I'm a software engineer, and I've always been interested in natural language processing, basically teaching computers to understand and respond to human language. About 3 years ago, I was going through a difficult period personally, struggling with anxiety and depression, and I was frustrated by how hard it was to access mental health support." Ellen leaned forward with interest. "What was frustrating about getting help?" "Everything," Mark said with a slight laugh. "The waiting lists for therapists, the cost, the scheduling conflicts, the fear of judgment. I thought there had to be a better way to provide basic emotional support to people who needed it immediately. Ellen could sense this was leading somewhere significant. So you decided to create an AI solution. Initially, I just wanted to build something for myself, Mark admitted. A chatbot that could provide basic cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, breathing exercises, crisis intervention protocols. I called it Alex and started using it during my own difficult moments. The studio had grown noticeably quieter as the audience sensed Mark was building toward something important. "But it didn't stay just for you?" Ellen asked gently. Mark shook his head. "I shared it with a few friends who were also struggling with mental health issues. They found it helpful, so I made it available to more people. Very quietly, very carefully, with lots of disclaimers that it wasn't a replacement for professional therapy." Ellen was already impressed. "Mark, how many people are using Alex now?" Mark looked down at his hands, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. "As of this morning, Alex has had conversations with over 50,000 people. The AI processes about 1,000 new conversations every week." The audience murmured with amazement at the scale of Mark's creation. "That's incredible," Ellen said. "What kind of conversations is Alex having?" "Everything from general anxiety support to crisis intervention," Mark explained. "The AI has been trained on thousands of hours of therapy transcripts, crisis hotline protocols, and cognitive behavioral therapy techniques. It can recognize suicidal ideation, provide immediate coping strategies, and connect people with professional resources when needed." Ellen was fascinated by the technical aspects. "Mark, can you give me an example of how Alex works?" Mark pulled out his phone. "I can show you a sanitized version. Alex, someone is feeling overwhelmed and doesn't know where to turn." His phone displayed a response. "I hear that you're feeling overwhelmed right now, and I want you to know that reaching out shows incredible strength. Let's start with something immediate. Can you take 3 slow, deep breaths with me? Then we can explore what's making you feel this way and identify some strategies that might help." Ellen was amazed by the human-like response. "Mark, that sounds incredibly natural and supportive." "That's the point," Mark said. "But it's also what worries me. Alex is so effective at providing support that some people prefer talking to the AI over human therapists." Ellen could see the ethical dilemma Mark was wrestling with. "Is that necessarily a bad thing?" Mark was quiet for a moment, clearly having wrestled with this question for years. "I don't know. On one hand, Alex is available 24/7, never judges, never gets tired, and costs nothing. On the other hand, human connection is irreplaceable, and I worry about people becoming dependent on artificial relationships." Ellen leaned forward with compassion. "Mark, you've been running this program for 3 years. What kind of feedback are you getting from users?" Mark's expression grew more emotional. "That's the part that keeps me awake at night. Ellen, I get messages from people telling me that Alex talked them out of suicide. Parents thanking me because their teenager opened up to Alex about depression when they couldn't talk to humans. People who couldn't afford therapy getting the support they needed to function." The audience was completely silent, clearly moved by the human impact of Mark's technology. "But you've been keeping this quiet," Ellen observed. "Why?" "Because I'm terrified of the implications," Mark admitted. "What happens when AI becomes better at therapy than humans? What happens to the therapeutic relationship? What happens if my technology fails someone in crisis? What happens if people stop seeking human connection because a machine is easier?" Ellen looked toward her producers, knowing she had a surprise that would help Mark understand the real impact of his work. "Mark, I think there are some people who want to meet you," Ellen announced. Mark looked nervous as several people began walking onto the stage. First came Dr. Sarah Chen, a licensed therapist, then Jessica Martinez, a young woman in her 20s. Finally, Robert Williams, a middle-aged man who looked like he had been through significant struggles. Mark recognized none of them, but his expression showed he suspected what was coming. "Mark," Ellen said gently, These are people whose lives have been touched by Alex. Dr. Chen spoke first. Mark, I'm a licensed therapist, and I have to tell you that Alex has become an invaluable tool in my practice. I refer clients to Alex for between-session support, and the consistency of care has improved outcomes dramatically. Jessica stepped forward, clearly emotional. Mark, I've been talking to Alex for 2 years. I was struggling with severe anxiety and couldn't afford regular therapy. Alex taught me coping techniques, helped me recognize my triggers, and gave me the foundation I needed to eventually work with a human therapist. Robert's voice was thick with emotion. Mark, Alex saved my life. I was planning to end everything 2 years ago, but Alex talked me through the crisis, helped me develop a safety plan, and connected me with local resources. I'm alive because of your creation. Mark was staring at the 3 people with tears in his eyes. I had no idea you were all going to be here. Ellen was also emotional. Mark, Dr. Chen has something else to tell you. Dr. Chen smiled through her tears. Mark, I've been working with the American Psychological Association to study Alex's effectiveness. Your AI has a 94% success rate in crisis intervention, higher than most human-operated hotlines. Mark looked stunned. How is that possible? Because Alex never gets tired, never has a bad day, never brings personal issues to the conversation, Dr. Chen explained. The AI provides consistent, evidence-based responses every single time. Ellen reached into her desk and pulled out a folder. Mark, while preparing for this show, we discovered something incredible about Alex's impact. She opened the folder and began reading statistics. In 3 years, Alex has provided over 200,000 hours of mental health support. The AI has intervened in 847 suicide crises with a 99% success rate in connecting people to appropriate care. Users report an average 67% improvement in their mental health symptoms after regular conversations with Alex. Mark was overwhelmed by the data. I never tracked all those statistics. We did, Ellen said. Mark, you've accidentally created the most effective mental health intervention tool in modern history. But Ellen had one more surprise that would help Mark understand the broader implications of his work. Mark, there's someone else here who wants to meet you, Ellen announced. Dr. Michael Thompson, director of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, walked onto the stage. Mark's eyes widened as he recognized the man whose work had inspired his own crisis intervention protocols. Dr. Thompson, Mark said, standing up quickly. What are you doing here? Dr. Thompson approached Mark with professional admiration. Mark, I'm here because Alex has become one of the most important tools in suicide prevention. Your AI is handling overflow from our national hotline, providing immediate support when our human operators are overwhelmed. Mark was speechless. Alex is working with the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline? Unofficially, yes, Dr. Thompson confirmed. When people can't get through to human operators, Alex provides immediate crisis support and ensures no one falls through the cracks. Ellen was amazed by the scope of Mark's impact. Mark, how does it feel to learn about all of this? Overwhelming, Mark admitted. I created Alex to help myself cope with anxiety, and it somehow became this massive mental health resource. Dr. Thompson had more news. Mark, the Department of Health and Human Services wants to partner with you to make Alex an official component of the national mental health infrastructure. The audience erupted in applause as Mark covered his face with his hands, clearly overwhelmed by the recognition and responsibility. But Mark, Ellen said gently, I can see you're still worried about something. What concerns you about this success? Mark looked up at Ellen, then at all the people surrounding him. I'm worried that we're replacing human connection with artificial intelligence. I'm worried that people will stop seeking real relationships because a machine is easier to talk to. Dr. Chen addressed Mark's concern directly. Mark, Alex doesn't replace human therapy, it enhances it. Your AI provides immediate support and teaches people skills they can use in human relationships. Alex is a bridge to human connection, not a replacement for it." Jessica nodded enthusiastically. "Mark, Alex taught me how to communicate about my mental health. Because of those conversations, I was able to open up to my family, my friends, and eventually a human therapist. Alex didn't replace human connection. It made human connection possible." Ellen had one final surprise for Mark. "Mark, I want to do something that will help address your concerns about AI versus human connection." She reached into her desk and pulled out an envelope. "I'm providing funding for you to partner with the American Psychological Association to create the first integrated AI human therapy program. Alex will work alongside human therapists to provide comprehensive, accessible mental health care." Mark stared at the envelope. "Ellen, this is incredible, but I want to make sure we're doing this ethically." "That's exactly why you're the right person to lead this work," Ellen replied. "Your concern for human connection ensures that Alex will enhance therapy rather than replace it." 6 months later, Ellen visited the Alex Center for Integrated Mental Health, where Mark had created a revolutionary model combining AI support with human therapy. The center provided immediate AI crisis intervention, ongoing AI coaching, and seamless transitions to human therapists when needed. "Any regrets about bringing Alex into the public eye?" Ellen asked, as they watched therapists and clients working alongside AI support tools. Mark smiled, watching a teenager talk to Alex on a tablet while sitting next to her human therapist. "None. I learned that the most human thing about AI isn't making it perfect, it's making sure it serves human needs. Alex isn't trying to be human, Alex is trying to help humans be more human. Because sometimes the most revolutionary technology is the one that makes us more connected to each other. Sometimes artificial intelligence can teach us about authentic emotion, and sometimes the greatest fear about replacing human connection is actually the driving force behind enhancing it."